Hello, Southfield. Welcome to the Southfield Roundtable, where we discuss issues that are difficult, upsetting, that actually make us squirm, but we discuss these issues in ways of friendship and comfort, all within this comfortable place that we call Southfield. I came across something really wonderful. Anybody who knows me knows that I think I was an Indian in another life, an American Indian. So I read so much about those first people in this country. I came across a book called And Grandmother Said, Iroquois Teachings Passed Down in the Oral Tradition. The author, whose name is Tom Porter, I saw his Indian name. No way could I ever pronounce that name. But he is a Bear Clan elder of the Mohawk Nation. And he wrote this in this monster book. It says, the most important thing to unity, to becoming united, is to communicate. That's what our peacemaker made. That's what Hiawatha did. And that's what the old leaders did. In order for there to be unity, people have to talk. They have to understand each other. And when they understand each other, they say, now there's one mind. And that's what we are. That's what we are, of one mind, to communicate, to discuss, to embrace each other. So, let's get going. Today, this is incredibly difficult. This is human trafficking in our city. Obviously, other cities as well. But this is so appalling to me as a lover of our city that I had to invite our Oakland County Commissioner, District 21, Janet Jackson. She's also vice chairperson and founding member of the Oakland County Human Trafficking Task Force and member of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children Diversity Advisory Board. Try to say that 28 times. Welcome, Janet. Welcome.
Thank you.
We have with us Southfield Police Chief Eric Hawkins, who has been fighting this horrendous abomination against our children. And we have with Commissioner Jackson, we have Rhonda Hines and Devon Chandler, both of SOAP, Save Our Adolescents from Prostitution, and Freedom Song, both being human trafficking awareness and outreach initiatives. Unbelievable. And then we have my dear friend Barbara SELDON, who is an activist in this city, whom I met through the MLK task force, and we've been attached at the hip ever since. So I did a little research, and I found articles regarding Covenant House for homeless youth, a Polaris article, and you're going to have to tell me about that one, because I don't know who they are, frankly. And the crackdown on Southfield hotels, especially at 10 Mile and Telegraph, am I correct? Anybody can answer that.
Yes. They're we're focusing on all of our hotels and motels across the city. So that's one area, but the entire city is the focus.
And they're so brazen. They're so brazen that they advertise online. Aren't they adorable?
Oh, yes.
I mean,
Yes.
And ladies, I need to ask, how did you get involved in all of this? You can start, Yvonne, if you want to.
Rhonda, you can start.
Want me to start?
Rhonda,
Okay.
go ahead. I'm just going to let you go right on the table.
I got pulled into it from Rhonda.
It's
so,
my fault.
Yeah.
It's all my fault.
Oh, that's all right. Oh, yeah. Well, we will, we'll attack you.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I have always had a heart for helping women and children, and trafficking has always been something that's been on my mind. Actually, internationally is what I had been thinking. And so when I heard that Teresa Flores, who is a survivor of human trafficking, she was trafficked out of Birmingham, an upper middle class neighborhood, as a teenager from her school, and she was blackmailed. And she had to do some horrific things and was prostituted, and as she was afraid for her life.
Okay, go backwards, if you don't
Okay.
mind. And I need to know, what do you mean she was blackmailed? You explain that.
Okay.
Asked for money? What was this all about?
So Teresa was upper middle class. Dad was an executive. She was she didn't date. She wasn't even allowed to date. She was not promiscuous and had never used drugs or alcohol. But she went to a new school because they had moved to town, and there was a young man who seemed to have a lot of interest in her. And she told him, no, I can't date. But he continued for months and months to show interest in her, and one day he offered her a ride home from school. Well, that's not a date, is it?
Hardly.
No.
So
Hardly.
this young man in his wonderful sports car gave her a ride home, but on the way home he stopped at his house, which was like a mansion, and said, come on in, I want to show you around, I just got to pick something up. And she said all the right things. No, I'm not allowed to do that, I need to go home. And then she always says, it came down to 3 words, I like you. And so she said, okay, just for a minute. And he went in and gave her a Coke to drink while he went to get what he needed. And that Coke was spiked, and he drugged her. And that day she was raped while his family took pictures. And then he took her home, and she wanted to act like nothing happened because she didn't want to be in trouble because she had done what she wasn't supposed to do. She didn't tell anyone. And when she went back to school the next week, the young man approached her with an envelope and said, I want you to look at these. And in it were very graphic photos that she didn't know had been taken. And he said, I know who your dad's boss is. In fact, this is his name and his phone number. And if you don't do what they say, we're going to give him to him, and your dad will lose his job. We're going to give him to the priest at the church you go to, and we're going to pass them around school. How do you think that'll go? You better do whatever they say if you want to work these off. She didn't know what that meant. She thought it meant maybe work at the store or wash their cars. But she found out that night when they called that it meant a lot more than that. And that was the first day of 2 years of trying to work those off. They threatened to kill her family. They followed her everywhere. It was the mafia. I mean, she was afraid for her life. They even killed their pet.
They talked to her on the phone. They shot her dog while she was on the phone.
Oh.
She had to hear it.
So she felt that she was doing what she had to do as a young teenager to keep herself safe and her family safe, and she escaped because their family moved. But those are the kind of stories that you hear, a blackmail. And when I heard that this was happening in my own zip code in our own city, I thought I don't have to go overseas to help young girls and to help women. And boys, by the way. We can do this right here. And so I became very empowered by her story. I read her book. I invited Devon, who I had been mentoring and working with. I said, hey, why don't you come with me to this outreach? And then we got there and things changed. Why don't you tell them a little bit what happened?
Well, we went, and I heard Teresa's story, and I realized that she was talking about me. She was telling my story, and I was trafficked as a young teenager, about 12, 13, by my family, by my sister and my brother-in-law, right out of Wayne, Michigan. And I just kept it quiet. I was really ashamed. I didn't know what had happened to me. I was married. I have 3 kids. I, at the time, married 10 years. And I knew I had triggers. My husband knew what to work around, but he never knew exactly what had happened to me. And so I heard Teresa speaking, and I realized that there was a name to what had happened. I realized that there was just this whole force just trying to work against it, and I knew that in a way that it was God telling me it was time to speak up. So I started volunteering, and then we ended up doing Soap Metro Detroit. And
was there anything done to your sister and brother-in-law about all of this, or they went off scot-free?
Not my brother-in-law. I'm still working up the courage to do that. But my sister is currently in prison for unrelated crime.
Unrelated crime.
Well, not she's an accomplice to rape. She helped someone rape my niece. Actually.
And where were your parents with all of this?
My mom was in Kentucky.
So she didn't know anything about this.
No, not that I know. I don't know.
I'm trying to figure this.
Yeah. I was sent to Kentucky. I was sent from Kentucky to Michigan for a better life.
Oh,
They said. I lived in foster care. My mom was struggling financially, and she just couldn't take care of me. So she sent me to Michigan, and I was
into the care of your loving sister.
my older sister.
Lovely.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
So that day when we were sitting there and we're hearing Teresa and Devon gets up and walks out, I'm thinking, I wonder what's going on. And then she later shared with me that she felt that that was really a name for what she had been hiding. And so we worked together through some things for about 10 months of just really watching her come to grips and remembering and going through her story to the point that she has the courage. I want to share a really great story about Devon. The first time that we spoke was to tell people about what we were wanting to do with SOAP was in our city hall in Romulus. We live right by the airport.
Stop. Tell us, what is SOAP? SOAP.
Okay, so
we do not speak in as if the whole world knows what we're
okay,
talking
yes
about.
ma'am, that is very fair. So SOAP stands for Save Our Adolescents from Prostitution. It was founded by Teresa Flores 6 years ago. And so she was having, one time she was here speaking, and she had this flashback and started remembering her very worst night where she was taken into one of those really nasty, seedy hotels that you usually don't want to go to. And she was drugged and put on a table and auctioned off to a couple dozen men. There were so many men you could not even see the furniture. And she remembered waking up in the middle of the wee hours of the morning over a toilet in that bathroom. And when she started having that flashback, she said, what could have helped me in that hour? Like when I was all by myself and I didn't know what to do. And she's like, what if there would have been a number I could call or someone I could have reached out to? And she said, the soap, that's the only thing by law that has to be in a hotel room is a bar of soap. And she feels like this was divine because she was in this car having this panic attack, and God gave that to her. She feels that she get the name SOAP and putting that in what that means and putting this wonderful number to Polaris, where the human trafficking hotline number, where we call all our tips, that those girls, when they're in dire need, if they have that moment of clarity that says, I need help, that they'll have something to call. And so our organization takes donations and we buy bars of soap and we go to hotels. We take folders that look like this and we look for missing children. We just went to Flint a few weeks ago, and this was the flyer that we took. And so we have some of these, I think one of these girls is now no longer missing, so that was good. By the way, when we were there in Flint, several of these children and women were identified by hotel workers. So what we do is we'll go into a city like we did here for the Dream Cruise. Janet?
Yes, we organized an event last year in conjunction with the Oakland County Dream Cruise because I met Teresa Flores when we began the Oakland County Human Trafficking Task Force. She was one of our speakers at a large event
Tell us
that
who
we
is
had.
Teresa Flores.
Teresa Flores is the young lady that Rhonda spoke about that lived in Birmingham originally.
That wrote,
There we
this
go.
is
that
her
began
book.
SOAP,
Yes.
and she has a book. So when the task force began in 2013, we planned an event. It was a workshop task force before it became an official task force. So we invited Teresa Flores to speak, as well as Russell Petty from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, who I had a relationship with, who had done a lot of cyber safety events in Southfield, because we know that the internet feeds and fuels this crime. So meeting Teresa, I got interested in SOAP, and we all had a meeting. There are a lot of groups that fight this crime locally, and she held a meeting, and we all got together, and they talked about a SOAP event that was going to be in conjunction with the Grand Prix at Wayne County Community College downriver where they live. And I said, wow, we need that in Southfield, because they had SOAP events partnered with the auto show in Detroit, and then they had one in Grand Prix, which was the first one. And so we need one.
So much for Detroit event.
Right. I said we need something in conjunction with the Dream Cruise.
Right, very
So
important.
last year, in August, at Oakland County Community College, Dr. Lloyd Cruz, our councilman, helped get us a room, and Rhonda and Devon and the National Congress of Black Women in Southfield and other sororities. We all got together the Saturday prior to the Dream Cruise.
Yes.
With their leadership, and we went to 75 hotels to deliver the soap in Oakland County, all of the hotels in Southfield. So what they do as far as outreach and education is crucial, because this crime, we get information that is happening in Southfield, we'll get an article in the paper,
Right.
and then it kind of goes silent. I was raised in Detroit off 8 Mile Road, and I grew up with prostitution around me and my neighborhood and community fighting it. So for some reason, here I am again. And so I see what it does to a neighborhood, a community. I see what it does to the hotels where it's happening. It's not just the victims, it's also economic devastation, because then you get like regular families that don't want to have.
I hate to interrupt
Oh,
you.
please interrupt,
But
because I'll go
that's-
on and on. We
well,
have too
no,
many
that-
voices around here. You'll
No,
come back to me.
Ask me why I asked you, because I know you can talk.
Oh yeah,
But
and love this.
I love this city. This is what gets to me, and I know it's all about the money.
It is.
That the hotels, we have had all these, our city has just blossomed as literally a tourist center, because there are so many things around us. So people do come, and they have their out-of-towners, and they all stay at these hotels. And for the owners of these hotels to allow this stuff happening, they actually, to me, they absolutely don't care about darn about families who want to come and spend a couple of days enjoying themselves at a hotel, because they're not going to make all that much money from those folks. They're
Right.
going to make that money from these bad
And some
guys.
do and some don't. And their initiative with SOAP going out, talking to the hotels about the victims and watching out for it is really evolving into something, a larger umbrella that I'm sure they'll share with you. Kind of to hold the hotel management, ownership a little bit more accountable, so we can bring them in as more of a
That's
partner.
good.
Chief Police Hawkins knows how much activity is in our
Right,
hotels.
and we're going to ask you, Chief, to talk about how we're fighting this from the police department. And I want you to tell your story about your friend who wanted to, but we'll wait till the chief talks about how we're fighting this. Our
Yes.
cops, you know.
Yes, absolutely. And, and I first want to say, EUNI, that Commissioner Jackson is a champion in this area. She's when I was appointed as chief almost 4 years ago, Commissioner Jackson was one of the first people to come and talk with me about this issue that is so critical in our communities. And I can remember coming and we're talking, we're trying to develop strategies on how we can work with some of the other groups in the community who are dealing with this. So, and for these ladies here, I applaud the efforts that you guys are, what
The
you're doing in this
bravery,
area.
the courage.
Oh, absolutely. Because I see the devastation that this causes, and for you guys to be right on the forefront like that, it's I applaud you for your courage.
Thank you.
But in Southfield, we're seeing we've seen an uptick over the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, and we have officers assigned to task forces. We have officers internally who are doing things in this area, and so when it happens, I always ask, why Southfield? Why are we seeing such an uptick in this area? And it's interesting. One of the first things they tell us when we talk to the people we arrest and some of the victims when we interview them, they say that Southfield is a safe place. They feel comfortable coming here. For doing some of the things, they don't feel comfortable in certain areas. They don't feel comfortable in other cities. And so they can come into a city where they know if they call the police will come and come promptly. And that there's not a whole lot of bad people who are around. So it's the same thing that draws good people to our city, draws some of these folks who are doing some of these other things. So that's the first thing. Second, we're seeing that our city really geographically is positioned in a place where it's easy to get in and out, and it's easy to, a lot of out-of-towners coming to Detroit or other areas. They can come into Southfield and get in and out very, very quickly. So geographically, it's a place that works. And then third is the price point for some of our motels. If you go to and Commissioner Jackson talks about this all the time, and when we're talking about the responsibility of some of these hotel and motel managers and owners, they're pricing their rooms at a point where folks who are getting involved in illegal or illicit activities, they can come in real cheap and get out within a certain amount of hours. So those are some of the challenges that we're seeing. And and as we come around the room, I talk about some of the things we're doing to address those challenges.
Yes,
Those challenges.
That's good. So Barbara, would you indulge us, please, in what you said to me about one of the hotels anyway.
Well, there's a couple of points that I really want to bring up. First of all, I kind of just so proud of you to have such courage to say what you say and to stand forward, because we know that this kind of human trafficking is a hidden problem. When you walk around Southfield, you don't see it, you don't feel it, you don't know what's there, and until you have people like Janet who put it in your face so that you can know what's going on, you may not be aware of it. And the point that I wanted to make particularly, and I'm not sure because I think I made a couple of points to you, is when I went to buy a car.
That was it.
Okay. I went to purchase a car, and I can say Sarah Chevrolet because Greg Brown is my friend. And I noticed that there were some parking issues around there. And the first thing that I heard was, would sure love to buy that motel that's very close to who I am, but I can't because they won't sell. And the reason why they won't sell is because of the trafficking, and it makes so much money for them. The owner keeps it for the mere profit of it. And so I said, well, why doesn't the police just go in there and wipe it out and they won't have that problem anymore? And I was explained clearly. One group goes, the next day you got another
Right,
one that's
and they
coming
just keep
right
traveling.
in,
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
So that bothers me. But what bothers me more than that is with this hidden problem, many times it's youngsters, 12 years old, 13 years old. Sometimes they're international. They come from overseas, Africa and places, and they're not just trafficked for prostitution. This is what I call a contemporary form of slavery.
Absolutely.
And we
Yes.
think that,
It is slavery.
okay, sometimes they're kept in a dungeon and locked in and only allowed out. Sometimes they're malnourished, sometimes they're beaten, sometimes. And so when, as a healthcare provider, and that's what I am, if someone comes into my dental chair and I go toward them and they jump, I said, something's wrong.
Yes.
There's a fear factor there too. And we really...
Or they don't like dentists.
I've never heard of such.
Mea culpa, I
Who
had
doesn't
to.
like dentists? I can't imagine that. But all of the traumatic injury, some of the sexual activities, I think in some of the readings that I had, where you go, have a friend,
That's right.
they drug your drink, and then you're out. When you wake up, you've got an organ missing. So it's just not prostitution, it's not just forced labor, but it's actually the amount of money you can get for a kidney. And because a kidney is retroperitoneal, that's a word meaning it's in back of the, it's not inside the body, it's outside the body. So they can do a slit, take it out, clip it off, sew your back, and all you know is you've got a scar.
Wow.
Okay? So I'm saying this is an issue that really needs to be brought to the forefront. We need to start looking at it, listening at it, and we need to love our children. We need to protect our
Well,
children.
this is a perfect example.
And we owe it to them to report it. There are places where you may report it and stand up. You might think you're in danger, but take the risk.
Thank you.
Report it because it's very important. So you've got that hidden, what I call it, problem that's affecting our children, boys and girls.
Yes.
And they don't know what to do. And for some of them, this is my life. I'm used to this. Okay, and that's a sad, sad story.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Well, good.
Can
Oh.
I say something to you?
No, you're not
To
allowed.
compliment you?
Oh, sorry.
This is really good. Yeah, I can say that, right? But this is why it's so important, and it was so great of you to bring this discussion to the forefront, because
you.
that's a key part of it is awareness. When
Yes.
Devon goes out as a survivor,
Yes.
it creates an awareness, because there's it preys on the vulnerable. And as she spoke
does.
about her family situation, as
Right.
we think
Right.
about our young people, they're on the internet. That's the new gateway. We don't see
Yeah,
the
there was
quote
none
unquote on
of
street
that when I
walker.
was younger, so
Well, it
it
didn't
wasn't
matter.
as
You were still
widespread.
hurt.
So the
Oh, I
last
know.
5 years, as Chief of Police Hawkins mentioned, computer use and internet use has increased. Our children
Yes.
are being exposed, and pornography is being
thank you.
espoused, and people's appetites are being driven
Yes.
by so many things
Yes.
that used to not be
They
acceptable.
really, yes.
They call
Pornography
it
goes hand in hand with it.
commodification.
Yes,
It's a
it is.
commodity.
It's right.
And
Women-
I
it's-
just wanted to get back to what, about the
Yes.
families.
Yes.
I was with dear cousins of mine that I had, 2 out of 3 of them I'd never met. and the father, the mother, and their son who were on a college touring trip. And as I thought about today's program, I looked at these 3. They are so warm and so loving with each other. They're so supportive of each other that, knock wood, even if this youngster would see something online, he would really automatically know that this would not be for him, because he has been brought up and is still being surrounded by such support and love.
I want to break into that. I don't agree. That is not what we're seeing. Even the families that have mom and dad and everything seems to be going good, they are easily manipulated and tricked.
Everyone's lacking something.
Everyone is lacking something.
Okay.
So that's the interesting thing about this whole trafficking thing, is a trafficker swoops in and says they may be a 14-year-old that's on that little pad and texting with your son or daughter, and they're actually 40.
And see, you don't really know it.
And you don't know
because
it.
It's hidden.
It looks
And
like
it's
a 14-year-old's
happening.
picture, so of course it is, right? Well, if you say who's at risk, just like Janet says, does your son or daughter have a smartphone? Does your son or daughter have a computer or an iPad?
They're at risk.
Then they are at risk, because there are people out there that are preying on our children. The amount of pornography that is fueling this is just, it has made an entire culture of people that are willing to do the unspeakable. And they are preying on our vulnerable children, and that is age, that is attention.
I still go back to, and forgive me,
Yeah.
but I still go back to, it has to start in the home
Absolutely.
somehow. And it seems to me that if parents are looking at what their kids are seeing,
That's the
why-
key.
That's why it's so
All right.
important.
All
And,
right.
and you need to follow
And-
this up.
And
with-
kids are
Education is
shrewd.
there
They
are,
can hack.
like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they have resources, and they're coming to this city, along with our prosecutor's office, to talk district-wide about
say
this
that
problem, and offer free resources for us to use as a community, not just our schools, our homes, our neighborhoods, because this is a safety problem.
It
and
is.
it begins with the internet and cyberspace. So as you talk about this, follow up with a cyber safety
Yes,
program,
do that.
because
Yeah, that'd be
one
good, too.
begets another. One is like sexual exploitation. That's the cyber safety threat. This is human trafficking. This is the economic
so let me ask, yes.
Commodification.
commodification of sexual exploitation.
What would happen, let's have a little scenario here. What would happen if you were staying at a hotel? You were there for a little overnight trip, and you saw something that you see something as a guest of the hotel. You see something that looks a little bit off to you.
So that trafficking number comes in, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
The trafficking number comes in.
Okay, well, but you don't have that.
Well, we are really
that's
happy
okay.
that a new
That's
law
okay.
just was
Oh, yeah,
passed.
but you're- but
A
you're-
new law
you're-
was just
I'm
passed
just
that we're
saying you
supposed
are
to
a
be.
guest at a hotel. You don't know anything about this. You're just a person staying at the hotel. All right, and you see something that doesn't ring well. You don't know anything about soap. You don't know anything about an organization. You haven't paid that much attention to the rest of the world because you're living your life.
Yep.
You're a business person or you're on vacation. So if you see something as that kind of a person, what would be the first thing you should do?
You know, in EUNI, the first thing anybody should do in these hotels is, if they see something unusual like that, is to alert the local authorities. You know, I have officers who are trained to identify, you know, some of these young women or young men, like Rhonda talked about, who may be exploited. So at least alert the local authorities. But to go back, you know, you're absolutely right. See, that's one of the things that we're very, very concerned about in Southfield, is the impact that this has on quality of life in the surrounding areas. Because what we see is that, you know, there's always the direct victims, you know, when you have human trafficking or crimes against children. But there's these ancillary type of issues that come up as well. You know, it leads to, you know, drug trafficking in the area. You know, we have larcenies, we have robberies, we have other types of violent
Increase
crimes.
in sexual transmitted diseases.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
and so for a healthcare provider, if I see something like that, that's important to me. Why is there an increase among this particular milieu in this
Absolutely.
particular community? That's really very important. And then when I think about the victim, and then I say to myself, oh my goodness, what are we doing to make it? First of all, it is not fair for us to dehumanize them,
Yes.
to criticize them, to talk them down, to talk about them. But we
I think
should
it's a lot easier for the community to
Hate
look
you.
at the prostitute as
Yeah.
they completely demoralize them because they don't know anybody
They
else to
don't-
point the finger at.
and they don't
mad at.
understand the distrust that
Yeah.
automatically they have all of a
So,
sudden.
yes.
The hurt and pain that they have come to know and to accept.
Yeah, no one wants to do that,
No.
and that's a big thing. That's what we try to point out is nobody chooses to do that.
Right, and as
And that's what a lot of people say. Why don't they leave? Why they don't have to do that? Don't ask that, by the way.
Yeah.
But
So-
I hate that.
Right,
It's not
that-
good.
that's
That's a
very
big thing.
interesting. So let's, when you first heard about this sort of thing, how did you start your campaign? When did this happen?
Well,
How long ago did this happen? And
Well, that
when
one
did you get
article
started?
that pointed out that Southfield in the FBI sting that Chief Police
Right,
Hawking
right.
Participates in netted the most people in the area, like twice as much as any other city in Wayne and Oakland County. This city did. Something's wrong with that. But then I kind of saw the quality of our hotels. I saw that they were building newer hotels other
Yes.
places. We had a big boom during the Super Bowl, which was 10 years ago now.
Yes, we did.
Now they have hotels 14 Orchard Lake, and you know they're close in proximity and they're newer. So you'll see like one activity being conducted here, and then our families having to go somewhere else, affecting our quality of life, and we don't want that to continue to happen. So what made me really start? I called a meeting at the Field Zone with about 10 community partners.
Do they know what the field zone
Oh,
is?
the Field Zone is our wonderful Boys and Girls Club. It was
Okay.
originally a municipal youth facility, and the Boys and Girls Club now manage it, and our young people go
Okay.
there after school, and they have it's a beautiful meeting space. So we
Nice.
met there and just talked about it, and Sergeant Ed Price, who's on the Michigan, Southeast Michigan, they changed the name.
Yes.
The task force that gave these numbers came as long, did you come that night?
I don't think,
I
I
think
had
I
a
talked to you
I
about-
had a representative there, but
Yes,
you and I
did.
talked about it later, yes.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And so, but we just talked about the need to address this crime because it was here, but it's silent, and people don't think that it's really happening because it happens. It's not overt; it's covert, but it's getting to be more overt. So, long
Maybe
story
throw the
short,
love
that
lights
meeting evolved into a task force at Oakland County, and now we have the Oakland County Human Trafficking Task Force in conjunction with the Michigan Commission on Human Trafficking. There was a set of laws, and I don't have the flyer with me. Maybe I do. I'll hold it up. This is anti-human trafficking legislation that has been furthered in the state by State Senator Judy Emmons. I'm sure that
I
maybe
love
you have
her.
gone up there to testify at the state level. And our own Vincent Gregory has offered
him.
and pushed one of these bills together. So they create a safe harbor legislation which helps the victim or survivor be placed in a setting where they won't have to go right back to this activity. Along with we talked about Teresa Flores' law. I think it pertains to
Statute of limitations.
the statute of limitations.
25
Someone
years
can
now.
be
Completely
prosecuted
erased it, yeah.
that
It
would
was
affect
7
her
years.
situation. So,
Yes.
our main goal with the Human Trafficking Task Force in Oakland County is education, advocacy, and collaboration, because there are a lot of people that aren't aware of this crime, to raise awareness about what to do, just like the question you asked.
Yes.
Intervention and advocacy to help these laws become active and impactful, and collaboration, bringing groups together like SOAP and the Polaris Project to work
what's
as a
the
team.
did we go back to the Polaris Project?
We
I don't
mentioned
recall
it.
that we didn't define it, so if somebody
National, but
It's a national organization that 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 does a lot of education and provide many resources, but the main resource they do is the trafficking hotline number that then works with local police officers. So this number, if you call this number, it's 888-3737-888, and I tell everyone put that in your phone because you never know when you might need that,
That's
right?
Yes.
888-3737-888, and they also have text, and it's 24 hours a day, and I don't know how many languages, it's as many as you can imagine. And it's a resource center that anybody can call tips into, or if you are a victim yourself, you can call. And then they shoot that information to local law enforcement and people that are trained to be able to deal with this, because unfortunately that's one of our issues as well, is we don't have training of our police forces. So, and this is a huge problem, which we know is a huge problem. So we are very thankful that the Polaris Project can shoot it to people who are trained to take care of this.
But can I say one thing about the training of the police force? Because
Yes.
there was an issue recently where one of our police officers was shot, but he had on his bulletproof vest, right? Why don't you
Yes.
tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're part of the, as Commissioner Jackson talked about, a federal task force. And it used to be called the Southeast Michigan Crimes Against Children Task Force. And it dealt with human trafficking, but it was mostly focused on child prostitution. Well, the focus and the mission of this organization changed just recently. So now it's called the Southeast Michigan Trafficking and Child Task Force. So it's broadened. So now they focus on human trafficking as well as child prostitution. So we have, and just to go back, we talked about law enforcement's commitment to this. The Southfield Police Department's commitment to this is unrivaled.
That's awesome.
Right? We do more in this area than just about any law enforcement agency in the
Wonderful.
country. It's something that's very, very, that's why, it's so exciting to me to hear, what's happening in this area. And it affirms my conviction to continue with this when I hear the stories and hear what everybody else is doing here. But we have 2 officers who are assigned to this federal task force. We have partnered with the FBI to give them office space in the Southfield Police Department. So when there's these large details that where they're dealing with the prostitution or the trafficking or the child exploitation, they run all of those details out of our city. And so that goes back to something that Commissioner Jackson talked about a little bit when she talked about the numbers and why are the numbers so high in Southfield? Why do we have so many more arrests than everybody else across the country? And that's because we're running these details here. We're giving our city attention.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't mean that it's not happening anyplace else. It just means that
Exactly.
we're getting this
doing
attention.
something about it.
Absolutely.
This is so fascinating to me because I do watch a lot of shows. I watch a lot of interview shows, mostly so I know what I'm doing, so I can learn to do this. But all over the place, we hear about these horrendous things, and we hear about other police forces, and we hear so much. And I think we need to have more publicity about our police department. Because the more I hear and the more you tell us, that I know that, I mean, I'm sure the other guys in the other cities are just adorable, sweet, and precious. But they're not like you.
And let me add just one more thing, EUNI. It's not just everything that we've done so far. Partnering with Commissioner Jackson and some of the
Yes.
things that she's doing, the federal, state, and local levels that we're doing. But we also have a 3 to 5 year plan to start our own internal hotel interdiction team in the Southfield Police
Wonderful.
Department.
That's the best.
And and
Thank
this is what is so remarkable about this concept that we have. It's because so many law enforcement agencies across the country are running short. There's fewer, us
Yeah,
included.
right.
Right now, I have 25% fewer officers than I had 7 or 8 years ago.
Wow.
But we've got to, determine what are our focuses, what are our priorities going to be in this city, and we found a way to still maintain minimum staffing and not to compromise any of the other service deliveries that we've had over the last decade in the city, and also create a unit that is dedicated and focused on some of the issues that you all are talking about here today.
It's beautiful.
And so we are very, very much so committed to this and expanding our commitment in this area.
So the bad guys should be paying attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They don't know who they're coming up against. This is fascinating. So So my question with you,
Okay.
because I think you are an amazing person.
She
First
is.
of all, is she gorgeous?
She
Actually,
She is.
So I know with working with these organizations and putting yourself out there is, number one, astonishing, and two, very brave. But what has it done for you in your life now? As a married, you are a married lady,
I am.
and you have children.
I have 3 girls.
Okay. So how has all of this horrific experience helped you in your really and truly an astonishing miracle of a new life? It is. It is. How have you been able to live your life now as an activist in this,
Yeah.
plus being a wife and a mother?
Well, it's really helped me heal. It's helped me come out of my shell a lot. I'm still learning about myself every day. Every single day, I learn something new. I learn the effects of trafficking is still following me. This is something we were just talking about this morning, just evolving and just noticing different aspects of my life need to change. My girls are very educated. They are.
How old are they?
They're 12, 9, and 5. But I don't lie to them. I don't keep any secrets. I'm very honest with them. I want them to just learn from me. I don't want them to think, oh, this perfect persona, because I'm not. And so I'm very honest with them about human trafficking, about what I've been through, about my life, and if one person can learn from me, especially my kids, then I say it's not that horrendous of a thing. It had to happen to somebody. So
Oh boy.
I
Oh
just-
boy. You said that out loud to them?
No. No,
That's-
And it
that's a
didn't
shocker.
have to happen to somebody.
No, that's what I was thinking.
And that's what I'm
Didn't have
thinking.
to
Let's
happen.
get control of this and let us use this as a springboard to make sure it never happens.
That's right. I want to tell you
anybody.
a story about how bold she is. The first time when we went to go speak with our city officials there in Romulus, and we're going down the elevator, and I said, I'm a little nervous. First time we're going to go talk to Suits, going to go in there. And I'm like, are you nervous? Are you nervous, Devon? And she looked at me right in the eye. She says, I am not nervous. My voice has been silenced for how many years? And finally, I have the chance to speak. And she went in there and she boldly told her story, and she graphically told those our people on our police force, on our drug task force. She talked with such eloquence, and that's what we have seen. So when you come to a SOAP event, what you see is that you'll come and we educate. We'll have we may have 100, 200 people. For the auto show, we went to 200 hotels in the Metro Detroit area. We sweeped the area. In fact, that
Yes.
incident that happened, we were getting ready to go. I was like, oh my goodness, it came up on my feed. And we had
Were you?
been to that hotel.
You mean
Incident that happened.
the shooting in
The Marriott.
Southfield?
The shooting in
Yes.
Southfield
Yes.
in that
Okay.
That's what I
bus.
thought.
And we had
Okay.
actually been to that hotel the week before.
Okay.
Okay, so we were like, oh my goodness, and so that kind of jolted us a little bit, and it's like it made us more determined. Like, this is happening in our hotels, and we are going to stand against it. So we get people together. Yeah.
I was going to say, so that reinforces that you may have this exploitation, but you also have drugs.
Yes.
You also have guns.
Yes.
So there's a lot of illicit
Yes.
and illegal things that are going on behind the
Yes.
scenes, okay?
Yes.
And we need to
So
say
that all comes together to make a mishmash of
and praise
Absolutely.
horrificness.
and
Yes.
thank God for bulletproof vests.
Oh,
Because he
Yes.
got hit, but
Wow.
you got control of that
So-
Yeah,
hotel.
and that was a task force officer, in the
two-
crimes against children's human trafficking task force involved in that, and they rescued a young lady
yes.
during that detail as well.
And that's
so-
the most
Yes.
important,
Yes,
correct?
absolutely.
Oh, that is a person.
Yes.
These are people.
Yes.
These
And
are
the
people. They are not numbers. They're people with a
Right.
name.
She wasn't
when
talked
you-
down to. That's
so
And
when
right.
the
you
She
shooting
was
happened in the
recognized.
parking lot, and
human
it
being.
generated
That's
a whole
right.
lot of people
it sure
coming
did.
together,
Mhm.
Yeah.
in that situation. So that's important too. So when people think it's somebody else's problem, yes, we are concerned about the victim, but then this happened in a public place where the public was around.
Just real quick, let me-
quality of
Yes,
life.
yes,
And let me
go
just
ahead.
add real quick to what Commissioner Jackson is saying. We're changing the focus too on how we deal with this. It used to be that when 5, 6, 7 years ago, when we arrest John and the prostitute, the victim in these cases, that we'd prosecute them both, and they're all getting locked up and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, now we're changing the focus, and so we're looking at these the women or the young men as victims in these
Yes.
cases,
Good.
and we're offering them rehabilitative services. We have a detective. Whenever we rescue any of these young ladies, that takes these young ladies to a place where they're comfortable in the department, and explains some of the rehabilitative options that are available to them. Counseling,
Sure.
absolutely. We transport them, and provide those types of things to these victims. So we're really changing the way that we're looking at this and dealing with this whole issue. And again, they're victims in this cases, and we've got to deal
It's not
with it.
just
So those
prosecution,
so
it's
those
victims-
rehabilitation.
Those victims that you talk to and that your officer gives them ideas about what they can do as counseling, where do they go? Physically, where do they go once you let them go and you talk to them about their possibilities?
Well,
This is a problem.
Yeah,
Where
and-
do
and
they
this
go
is-
from
The
there?
task force is addressing. We are, it's a collaborative
And
effort. You
the
have to
answer
have
is Covenant
DHS.
House.
You have to
Well,
have
yeah,
care house.
okay.
They're at the table. Those individuals
That's
are
what
at
I'm
the
trying to
table.
say, and we
The
have
law
places for
enforcement
them.
community.
Well, I just have to know
Safe
that they're not
havens.
thrown out there to
Yes.
say, well,
Safe
you
harbor,
got
safe
counseling
haven.
and you're on your
Have
own.
a
And,
good day.
and each and every one of us have a legal mandate to report it when we see it.
No, but I know, Barbara, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm trying to ask is, I'm trying to get to a place
That's what-
where they
Yeah.
go, and that's what I want to know.
Okay.
They're counseled by you.
We really
and then
believe
they're
in a
left.
holistic approach, and this is why we've started another nonprofit called Freedom Song. And actually, Soap National is underneath Freedom Song, and we believe it's the whole thing. We need to start educating our men on how to be men
Yes.
and to not exploit women. We need to teach our young women how to be women, and their body is theirs, and to not be be tricked and exploited. We need to be educating our community of what human trafficking is and what to do about it, and we have to change the social norms of what people think. It's not, oh, that's just a streetwalker, oh, that's just a hooker and a prostitute. No, we need to change. That is a person being sold into slavery. So we need to change all that. So yes, we want to educate, and then we want to go right on the ground floor. I mean, we know these hotels are ground zero for this, and that's exactly where our police are at right now. So we want to go there. So we, as a grassroots project, will go into. We know that during events, the amount of women sold online goes up, and we know that. So Backpage is Backpage.com. They sell women and children openly on the internet, and we know that when a demand goes up, the amount goes up. So we know that trafficking happens every day of the week, but we have chosen to then go during these events and go to hotels and say, would you like our free soap? Will you put it in during your event? Can we train your hotel further? And so we've started a hotel training system where we go and actually train hotel staff on how to identify human trafficking. We have 55 hotels in the Metro Detroit area that want that.
Exactly what they're doing.
Thank you for that.
I think
Are
it-
you ready for this?
I just made one more comment.
Drum.
In some areas, not Southfield.
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes not only is the hotel on the dole for this, but sometimes police officers are on the dole for this. So there is an exchange of finances, not just the person who's the prostitute or the victim, if you will, is getting very little. But the police is getting something. The John is getting something.
But not our guys.
hotel.
They're not
Not
getting
not
anything.
hotel.
But may I
That's
just- may
correct.
Say the victim was
May I
sorry.
interject,
I
ladies and
know there was-
gentlemen?
Give 'em enough
Are you
device.
aware that we've been talking for the entire time? We are about ready
Wow,
to
time
wrap up.
flies.
Wow.
We are about ready to
Part
wrap up.
2.
We have to have another discussion.
Yes.
We will
We'll
come
continue
back.
this,
We-
yes.
This is just the very beginning. So I truly want to thank all of you. You are so brave. You are so brave, and you're articulate. You ain't stupid.
No, she's a smart cookie.
You're not stupid, and I thank
I love you
you.
too.
It is just so wonderful. And Chief, honestly, we have got to let the entire universe know about our Southfield
Good.
Police
Thank you.
Department.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, and Janet, thank you for all
And don't
your
lose so
help.
much more weight.
Seriously, thank you. I
Yeah, I feel so
thank you
better
so
doing
much.
well.
Well, you know, it's just been
Getting out of all
such an
that bad
amazing
food I was
time.
eating.
And those times.
Yes.
I want to
Oh,
thank
yes.
my Cable 15 crew for always making me look good. And I thank also all of our Southfield employees who make Southfield look good. They really do. So remember, please, all of you out there, watch us on Channel 15 and on YouTube and Facebook. And most important of all of you, like the Iroquois Nation, keep on talking. Mwah!